morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, LaWonder and Takia and Raquel. Good morning to YouTube. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, 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 Winner and Erica and Mia. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Kanita and Rachel. Good morning, Antoinette and Leah. Good morning, Sherry. Good morning, Shayla. Good morning, Natasha. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Donna. Good morning, Mia. Sloan, good morning, Renee. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Before we get started, I just want to, good morning, Angel and Tam and Deborah. Good morning, good morning. Before we get started, I want to share a few announcements with you. I would also invite you to click like and share. And if you have not already liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel named Pink Robe Chronicles, I would invite you to do that also. By way of announcement on this morning, I just want to share with you this Girl Trek flyer. I am registered. It is a week of daily prayer with thousands of Black women from around the country, and it is featuring a few of our own, Trisha Hersey, Candace Bimbo, Nichelle Guidry, and others. So the registration is there, free registration at prayertrek.org, prayertrek.org. I don't know if they will be recorded, but I imagine that they will. And so we have, you funny, Natasha. So this is the free conference call line is up there. So they'll be having a daily prayer every day this week, starting tomorrow through the 23rd at 9 a.m. I probably won't be on every week, but I will be on a few days, and I invite you to join me, Ashe. I also want to make you aware of this beautiful offering that I am co-convening with the Divinity School, Daughters of Thunder, Black Women Preaching in an Age of Crisis, that will happen on November 9th, 2023. It will begin first with a panel discussion that begins at 12 noon to 1:30 p.m. in the ZSR Library Auditorium. Our panelists are the Reverend Raquel Gill, who is Minister for Intercultural Engagement at Duke Chapel at Duke University. Our panel also includes the Reverend Dr. Kia Hood, who is pastor of Union Baptist Church of Jamestown High Point. Also, the Reverend LeVay Lemon, who is Executive Director at 18 Springs Community Healing Center. And if you are here in the Tray 4 or in the Triad, 18th and Spring is definitely somewhere that you want to go. It is a space where that centers healing practices and justice. So tools and resources for healing and for dealing with justice fatigue. Ashe. The Reverend Dr. Michelle Meggs, who is the Executive Director of Women, Girls, and Research Alliance at Urban Core at UNC Charlotte. And the Reverend Dr. Kay Monet. It will be moderated by the Reverend Dr. Kay Monet Rice Jallo, who is Associate University Chaplain for Wake Forest University. So that's the panel that will happen. I do not know as of yet. I've been pushing for it to be streamed live. I've heard that it would be recorded. It is definitely my preference for it to be streamed live, but as soon as I know more on that, I will get back to you. There is no registration that is needed. Just show up if you are in the place physically and can fall through. Our keynote lecturer is the Reverend Dr. Chelsea Brooke Yarbo. Chelsea is the assistant professor of African American preaching, sacred rhetoric, and Black practical theology at Phillips Theological Seminary. And that conversation will be moderated by myself, the Reverend Dr. Melva L. Sampson, assistant teaching professor of preaching and practical theology at Wake Div, along with curator and creator of the Pink Robe Chronicles and the Clearing and the One Love Festival. So these are, oh, I have one more announcement. Sorry. This is happening on October 19th. This is sponsored by the International African American Museum. The International African American Museum, which is a new museum that has opened in Charleston, South Carolina. Managing Ministry and Mental Health webinar. Listen, I did ask when I was invited. I was clear to tell them that I am not a clinician. I'm not licensed or certified in that area. I want to be sure what it is you are asking me to speak of. And I believe that I'll be talking about what my journey has been as a minister who does ministry. So not coming from the space of a clinician and or an expert, but I am glad to be with some of my good friends that I also see on this list, and I invite you to register. This one you do have to register for online at iammuseum.org/events. Ashe. Those are this week's announcements. I invite you to govern yourselves accordingly. Ashe. I thank you in advance. I want to put this at the top for those of you who want to sow. I invite you to do so now. Ashe. You can hit our Venmo at Melva-Sampson, Ashe, or you can use our PayPal at Pink Robe Chronicles. And so I invite you to do so now for those of you who sow in this way. For those of you who are subscribers, Village Keepers to our clearing community, where we go every Sunday right after Pink Robe Chronicles, we head on over to a private Zoom where we talk back to the text, where we get to go a little bit deeper, a little bit more intimate, a little bit more personal with one another as we hear and engage. We also receive the links, recorded links for those who cannot attend live. They get the recordings every Monday. And we have a private Facebook group where we can engage further. So if you are interested in becoming a subscriber of The Clearing, I put the link right here on Facebook, and I will go ahead and put it again here on YouTube. Ashe. And if you join while we're speaking, while we're on here, if you would just send me an instant message so that I know that you joined, so that I am able to send you the link so you can join with us today at 9 a.m. right after PRC. Ashe, as you may be able to tell, my energy is a little, it's just a little down. Shout out though to my spouse, Derek Young, in the celebration of our 18th wedding anniversary, our 28th year together, our 18th wedding anniversary, which was on yesterday. Thank you for those of you who sent us well wishes. So much has me in a way, Ashe. It's just the heaviness. Certainly, your eyes have been glued to the television and to my eyes haven't been glued to the TV, but I've been looking at other trying to find other media other than the media of the West. So I've been following a lot of Sean King on Instagram, and wow, just wow is what I can say. Well, actually, there's a lot more I can say, but I won't. Not in this platform in this way, Ashe. And so I want to really invite us to move forward, to be ginger with ourselves, to pay attention to what our body is feeling as we are taking on all of these images, all of these sounds, Ashe. So October is National Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and data from the U.S. Health Department, from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, reports that during this time, victim advocates, allied professionals, survivors of abuse, their loved ones, and the surrounding community come together to mourn the lives lost to domestic violence, to celebrate the progress that has been made to end this epidemic, and connect with others working to create change. During the month of October, the Pink Robe Chronicles is centering what feminist biblical scholar Phyllis Tribble calls text of terrors. Text of terror, tales of terror with women as victims, to raise awareness of domestic violence in the pulpit and the pew, in the living room and the boardroom. Hence, I am issuing to those of you who are viewing with us this morning and will view with us for the rest of the month, I am issuing you a trigger warning that the texts that we will be engaging and or reflecting and meditating on are texts of terror. They are tales of terror with women as victims. The subject is around rape and or murder and or abandonment. Yes, these stories are in the Bible, your precious, precious text. So I want to issue that trigger warning. I want to give folk an opportunity who need to. Good morning, Sora Alicia Gordon. I want to give you all and those who need to exit to take care of themselves, their psychic health, their spiritual health, their emotional health, who do not have the capacity. Ashe, I want to invite you to log off now. Ashe? Well, let us go to the text. Let us go to the text. This morning's text is found in the book of Judges. Good morning, Lima. It's found in the book of Judges. The book of Judges, chapter 19. It's just in my body. It's just even a hard text to read, particularly when my lived experience is tied to domestic violence as a co-survivor. Thank you, Dr. Jamie Eady, for that language. As a co-survivor. Good morning, Dana. Ashe, definitely lift you up, Dana. As a co-survivor, and again, just with everything that is happening in the world, the images. And so it is heavy, and we are here. And here is, good morning, Dr. Paris Smith. Here is the word, Judges chapter 19, beginning with verse 1. And in those days, Israel had no king. And now a Levite who lived in a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim took a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. But she was unfaithful to him, and she left him and went back to her parents' home in Bethlehem, Judah. After she had been there for 4 months, her husband went to her to persuade her to return. He had with him his servant and 2 donkeys. She took him into her parents' home, and when her father saw him, he gladly welcomed him. His father-in-law, the woman's father, prevailed on him to stay. So he remained with him 3 days, eating and drinking and sleeping there. And on the 4th day, they got up early and prepared to leave. But the woman's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh yourself with something to eat." and then you can go." So the two of them sat down to eat and drink together. And afterwards, the woman's father said, "Please stay tonight and enjoy yourself." And when the man got up to go, his father-in-law persuaded him, so he stayed there that night. And on the morning of the fifth day, when he rose to go, the woman's father said, "Refresh yourself. Wait till the afternoon." So the two of them ate together. And then when the man with his concubine and his servant got up to leave, his father-in-law, the woman's father, said, "Now look, it's almost evening. Spend the night here. The day is nearly over. Stay and enjoy yourself. Early tomorrow morning you can get up and be on your way." But unwilling to stay another night, the man left and went toward Jebus, that is Jerusalem, with his two saddled donkeys and his concubine. When they were near Jebus, and the day was almost gone, the servant said to his master, "Come, let us stop at the city of the Jebusites and spend the night." And his master replied, "No, we won't go into any city whose people are not Israelites. We will go on to Gibeah." He added, "Come, let's try to reach Gibeah or Ramah and spend the night in one of those places." So they went on, and the sun set as they neared Gibeah in Benjamin, and there they stopped to spend the night. And they went and sat in the city square, but no one took them in for the night. And that evening, an old man from the hill country of Ephraim, who was living in Gibeah, the inhabitants of the place were Benjamites, came in from his work in the fields. And when he looked and saw the traveler in the city square, the old man asked, "Where are you going? And where did you come from?" And he answered, "We are on our way from Bethlehem." So the he is the Levite, right? "We are on our way from Bethlehem in Judah to a remote area in the hill country of Ephraim where I live. I have been to Bethlehem in Judah, and now I am going to the house of the Lord. No one has taken me in for the night, and we have both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and bread and wine for ourselves, your servants, me, the woman, and the young man with us. We don't need anything." "You are welcome at my house," the old man said. "Let me supply whatever you need. Only don't spend the night in the square." So he took him into his house and fed his donkeys. And after they had washed their feet, they had something to eat and to drink. And while they were enjoying themselves, some of the wicked men of the city surrounded the house, pounding the door. And they shouted to the old man who owned the house, "Bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him." And the owner of the house went outside and said to them, "No, my friends, don't be so vile. Since this man is my guest, don't do this outrageous thing. Look, here is my virgin daughter and his concubine, and I will bring them out to you, and you can use them and do to them whatever you wish. But as for this man, don't do such an outrageous thing." But the men would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and sent her outside. Another translation says he pushed her outside. And they raped her and abused her throughout the night. And at dawn, they let her go. And at daybreak, the woman went back to the house where her master was staying, fell down at the door, and lay there until daylight. My. And when her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine, fallen in the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, "Get up and let's go." But there was no answer. And then the man put her on his donkey and set out for home. And when he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine, limb by limb, into 12 parts, and sent them into all the areas of Israel. Everyone who saw it was saying to one another, "Such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt. Just imagine. We must do something, so speak up." So speak up. I want us to consider and to reflect on. This is the first time you've ever heard this text this text has ever been read in your hearing. Just put an emoji so that I know. I want to know how many of you are familiar with this text. I want us to reflect on this title of Speak Out. Speak Out. Dennis Olson, the writer of the New Interpreter's Bible Commentary on the book of Judges, writes this, quote, the dismembered body of a woman who has been raped constitutes an outrageous horror in the midst of ancient Israel, end quote. Olson continues, quote, that the portrait of this woman is a tragedy that has been repeated time and again throughout history from the ancient period to today. Violence, sexual abuse, neglect, and suffering have been the experience of far too many women in countries and cultures across the globe. The unnamed concubine in Judges 10:1 is a metaphor for all the nameless women who endure public or private abuse and suffering in our societies. The story of the Levite's concubine calls the reader to consider, to take counsel, and to speak out, end quote. Looking again to Olson, it has been noted that throughout the book of Judges, that the changing power relationships, independence, and treatment of the many women characters in the book function as benchmarks for the health and faithfulness of God's people. Early on in the Judges era, women like Aksa, Deborah, and Jael displayed glimpses of boldness, leadership, and power as subjects of their destinies in the midst of largely patriarchal contexts. According to Olson, Israel seemed to function more effectively as a religious and social community. As the period of the Judges began its long decline, women became objects of men's foolish vows, the objects of men's desires. I have to take my time with this. And they became the purchase instruments for schemes of male vengeance. This general decline from woman as the subject of independent action to a woman as the object of men's actions and desires in the book of Judges coincides with the gradual decline in the health of Israel's social and religious life during the Judges era. That decline culminates with the atrocity of rape and murder committed against the Levite's concubine in Judges 19. Certainly one of the most brutal and violent scenes in all of Scripture. Judges 19 is flanked by three characteristics: chaos, disorder, and disobedience. There is no king, there is no teacher of the law, and there is no knowledge or fear of the Lord in the land. A Levite has an honored place in society that sets him above many other males. A concubine has an inferior status that places her beneath other women. Legally and socially, a concubine is not the equivalent of a wife, but is virtually a slave, secured by a man, except in the case of Sarah and Hagar, for his own purposes. The Levite is the object and the concubine, the Levite is the subject and the concubine is the object. He controls her. For this reason, that idea that she was unfaithful, this notion that she was unfaithful to her husband seems a little surprising. It's kind of like, I don't know. But according to Olson and other commentarians, the Greek and Old Latin translations don't say that she had an affair. They say that she became angry with him. She went so as a result of her becoming angry with him, she went to her father's house. Oh, y'all, my glasses are dirty. She went to her father's house. The text says that the Levite then goes after her to speak to her heart. So the being that owns her goes after his property to speak to her heart. The father of the woman welcomes the Levite into his home. So the men are extending hospitality to each other. We read that there were a couple days that the Levite is there and the father is kikiing and inviting him to stay and eat and giving him his fill. And every time the Levite got up to go, the father-in-law would say, hey, no, stay, it's getting late. Come on, continue to enjoy yourself. And there became this little badgering between, because at this point the Levite is ready to go. And the father continues with, showing all of this kind of hospitality toward him. And they are having this moment with each other. They are extending hospitality to each other. But the thing about the hospitality is that only the two men get to enjoy it. In the words of Tribble, quote, a journey to speak to her heart has become a visit to engage male hearts with no speech to her at all, end quote. On the fourth day, the Levite begins his trek back to Ephraim with his possessions, the concubine and the donkey and the servant. The late start meant that they would not be able to make the trip in one attempt. His attempts to get to Jebus, his attempt is to get somewhere where he can stay. And first his servant says, let's stop here in Jebus. But the Levite was against it because it was a place of foreigners, come on somebody, who did not belong to Israel. They went on to Gibeah and waited in the center of the square for an invitation for some hospitable resident to spend the night to tell them they could spend the night at their home. Extending hospitality to strangers was an important and deeply held custom in the ancient Near East, and particularly so in Israel. A sojourner in Benjamin, in the place of Benjamin, from the same territory of the Levite, comes up to provide hospitality. And the Levite assures the sojourner that he has all he needs for his own caravan, meaning you don't have to give me anything. I have all the food I need. I just really need somewhere to squat. I need a place to put my mat so that I can lay down, a place to feed my donkeys, make sure that I'm fed, that my servant is fed. That's all I need. The Levite, though, in this place, as he is talking to the sojourner and to his male servant, y'all, he still has not spoken to the concubine in the text. The narrator still does not narrate that the Levite has even addressed the concubine one time. And as you can tell, she has not even been named. He again is only speaking to those who have power. He's only speaking to the males. Danger, though, knocks at this door of merriment. Men of the sons of wickedness surround, Ronnie, you see it. You see where I'm going. Hold on right there. Oh, my. You see it. Y'all so smart. Danger knocks at the door of merriment. Men of the sons of wickedness surround the house, pounding on the door. And they shout to the man, to the Lord of the house, to the old man, let us in. Let us in that we may know him, that we may have sex with him. But see here, male power is confronting male power. Male power is confronting male power. So the men say, bring out the man that we may have sex with him. And the men wish to violate the guest sexually. And the man of the house replies, no, brothers. Don't do that. This would be a vile thing to do. Now the man moves from protector to procurer, because he offers his virgin daughters and offers the Levite's concubine. He places no limits on what the women may be used for. He gives the wicked men license to rape them. And to his final words of negative command emphasize again the point of the men wanting to violate other men, but the elder saying, this is a vile thing. If done to a man, such an act is a vile thing. But if done to a woman, it is good in the eyes of men. To be clear, though, I want to be clear. To be clear, this is not this text, as has been used inappropriately, misinterpreted. This text is not a condemnation against gay male sex. You heard what I said. You heard me? Did you get it? As a matter of fact, the sojourner's issue is that the men should not be gang raped. Y'all hear what I said? The issue here, and I am in agreement, is not a condemnation of gay male sex. The issue is about hospitality. The issue is about hospitality. The issue is about hospitality. And the issue is that the man does not want these other men to be gang raped, but does not have a word to say about the women. He didn't want anything to happen to the men because they were under his roof. And if something would have happened to the men that were under his roof, it would not have been hospitable. So the rules of hospitality in Israel protect only males. And can I help you? Can I come back around? Not only do the rules of Israel, the rules of hospitality in Israel protect only males, the rules of hospitality in Israel protect only people of Israel. Come on. Yeah, what are you saying? Remember, they didn't stop in Jabez because the Levites said that I'm not going to stop here where foreigners are. We will only stop where the people of Israel are. So they traveled forward to Gibeah, where they met a sojourner who was in the country, the town, the space of Benjamin, which is where Israel would have been, which was full of people from Israel. So let's back it track one more time. The issue here, we've not got to the woman yet. The issue for the man who is showing hospitality, again, it is not that gay male sex is a sin. Hear me, that's not the issue. The issue is that hospitality to other Israeli men, or they weren't called Israelis, to other Hebrew men would not have gone down well. That's the issue. That hospitality is really only spoken of between other folks from Israel. You don't see it. Y'all got to pick it up because, they'll come and try to shut down my account. You see what's being said? Yeah. Let it sit there for a second. Let it breathe for a second. I want you to get all of it. Yeah. Let me run it back. Let me run it back. He did not want anything to happen to the men because they were under his roof. And if it would have happened, it would not have been hospitable. That the rules of hospitality in Israel only protect males, but only protect Israel males. And guess how the conflict is resolved? The conflict is resolved via the sacrifice of a woman's body. Well, what's new? So the man took his concubine, the Levite, the holy man. Remember what a Levite is. A Levite are the priests, correct? The man, the Levite, the Holy One, took his concubine, yes, Alicia, Reverend, by offering up the vulnerable. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The man took his concubine and pushed her outside. Pushed her outside. Patriarchal power is cowardice. Patriarchal power is callous, but it is also calculated. Byron. And it is also calculated. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. It's calculated. As long as it can benefit the patriarchy, the system, the men, right? So listen, he pushes her, the Holy One. Yeah, yeah. The priest, the rabbi. Yeah. He pushes the concubine outside. And the text says that the men raped her and tortured her all night until the morning. That they raped her and they tortured her all night until the morning. And they let her go when the dawn came up. For the first time, the woman becomes the subject, but only as violated property of the master who betrayed her. Her physical state, the text says, let's go back to the text so that we can see what her physical state was. It says, verse 27, when her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way. This joker gets up in the morning after he done pushed the concubine out, the most vulnerable. After the government declares war. After they tell the people that this is the escape route that they should take to be able to evacuate, and then they bomb them. Gets up in the morning. And because the woman doesn't have anywhere to go, let me run it back. I'm sorry, I started at 27. Let me run back up to 26. At daybreak, the woman went back after she has been tortured and raped all night long. Now, as a co-survivor of domestic violence, there are moments in my lived experience that for the life of me, I could not understand why folk would go back to an abuser. I couldn't. And if I'm telling the truth, it is still a bit problematic. However, because I have more knowledge, because I have more resources, because I've read and I've learned and I've talked and I've had therapy about it, I understand. And there's something to it. There's something to it. Dr. Monica, tell us what it means. I understand that it is not as simple as, friend, you should just leave. You just got to go. As the concubine, as this man's property, she returns to her owner. Because exactly where would she go? Exactly where would she be? How is she to function? And now she's almost a day away from her father's house. So as she falls down at the door and she lays there until daylight. Some of you on here don't have to think far. For some of us on here, this is not a tale in near ancient Israel. For some of us, all we simply need to do is remember. Some of us still have the marks, the scars. Some of us, for this is our story. Some of us have experienced being gang raped. Some of us have watched this kind of violence as little children, and we could hear screams, and there was nothing that we were able to do. Some of us have watched helplessly. Some of us have been at the other end of the blows. And if I want to tell the truth about it also, some of us have been the ones who have thrown the blows. Some of us have been the Levite, Ashe. Some of us have been the Levite who did the pushing out the door. Yes, 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 yes. And here we are all together in the same virtual space. The text tells us that the woman fell down at the door and she laid there. She laid there until daylight. 27 says, and when her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way without even knowing where she was, there lay his concubine fallen in the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. Now, I didn't have time to go see what hands on the threshold means, but if some of you Bible scholars, religious studies people, ministers, theologians, if you know what that means, just go ahead and drop it in the chat. And he says to her, as her body is laying, oh, it's until you have heard an abuser. Until you have heard an abuser tell you to get up after they have been the cause of your pain, of your physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental pain. Until you have heard an abuser speak to you in a way that doesn't even dignify your humanity. He doesn't even look well at her. He simply says, get up and let's go. The text says, but there was no answer. So then the man puts her on his donkey and sets out for home. Let me go back for a second. For those of you who want to talk about this with us more, I invite you to the clearing. The link is right there on both Facebook and YouTube for you to subscribe, because this is a text we have to talk back to Ashe. The text says is that I need to go back for a second, that they let her go when the dawn came up. That they let her go when the dawn came up. For again, the first time, the woman becomes the subject, but only as violated property of the master who betrayed her. Her physical state embodies her servile position. Meanwhile, the master has remained safe throughout the night. Morning confronts him with the atrocity that he initiated. They tortured her all night until the morning, and they let her go when the dawn came up. Here's a place to pause. In this pericope, daybreak exposes the crime and its aftermath. And if I were making points, but this is not a three-pointed sermon, but if I had more than one point, I would simply say that daybreak is here. Daybreak is here. The unnamed concubine is not only a metaphor for all the nameless women who endure public or private abuse and suffering in our societies. She is also the metaphor. She is also a metaphor for the occupied, for the marginalized, and the oppressed. Daybreak is here. It is my hope then, friends, that we are deeply grieved by the taking of innocent. Cleante, look right, just scroll on back up in your on your YouTube. The link is right there. I'll put it up when I'm finished. A settler, excuse me, that it is my hope that we are deeply grieved by the taking of innocent civilian life in both Israel and Palestine. And yet it is clear, and yet it is clear that as I heard a Jewish woman protesting the Israeli government on yesterday say that Israel is a settler colonial state imposing apartheid on an indigenous people. Listen, I wish that I could go into it, but wisdom is telling me not to. But if you don't understand that, I don't know what else to tell you. If you of a particular if you are who you are, Ashe, and you don't understand this as Israel in this moment operating as a settler colonial state imposing apartheid on indigenous people, I just don't know where you are. I don't know where you are. But daybreak is here. U.S. District Court Judge Burl Howell said jurors at an upcoming trial will be told that the former Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani intentionally tried to hide financial documents. This means that jurors deciding how much Giuliani should pay two black women, one a poll worker and her grandmother, workers that he defamed. They will be told that they can assume the worst about why the former New York City mayor has failed to turn over the court-ordered records. Daybreak is here. Black preaching women, daughters of thunder, exposing the inherent sexism and misogyny in the black church. Daybreak is here. For the light forewarns of the perverse. It reveals the heinous act. But her lifeless looking body lay at the door. Yes, with her hands on the threshold. And if I'm just thinking about what a threshold means that you are stepping over into something new. The problem with that for me and this texter is that she doesn't actually step into anything new. She steps right back into the same situation as property with the one who owned her. The problem with this idea of her hands being on the threshold is there is nothing new that is happening to her. As a matter of fact, we're not even clear. We're not even sure if she is living or not. Her body looks lifeless. Even in this state of lifelessness, though, the woman is still, her master is still in power over her. Phyllis Tribble says this, that her battered body escalated brutality from him and no agent, human or divine, intervenes. I imagine that that's how the Palestinians are feeling right now, wondering when the human or divine agents will intervene. I read a beautiful post, a beautiful comment on Sean King's timeline. It was from a Muslim woman who was explaining what one of the Palestinian mothers was saying as she held the lifeless body of her daughter in her hands. The woman was saying, "Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah." And what the woman translator was saying was that the woman in the midst of this was saying, "All praises to Allah." Now, I want to tell you the truth. I struggled with that. I struggled with that because I'm struggling with this text. I'm struggling with this whole situation. I'm struggling to understand what folks don't understand, because not only does this situation go back 16 years to the Nakab, the catastrophe catastrophe that shut down, that blocked when Egypt and Israel blocked its borders to Gaza. Not only does it go back to 1948 when Israel becomes established as a state, not only does it go back to 1917 and the Balfour Declaration, when Balfour, who was the Prime Minister of Britain, decides that he has found a place for which Jews who have been persecuted can find themselves a home. Never mind that there are people already living on this land. The question that I am having while people are so appalled is that this is what your Hebrew Bible tells you also, that even when the Hebrew people are called by God, when Abraham is called by God to leave his country, the promise is that I am going to give you a land to call your own. But the only way to get that land was to kill. Come on and go back and read your text. Was to kill the people who were already on the land. I'm getting really, really frustrated here. I'm getting confused, and I gotta tell you, it's a little crisis here. A crisis, and not in my faith, but a crisis in Yahweh, and a crisis in the Christian God. I'm struggling here because it's all in the text for me. It's all very clear for me that folks think that this is okay because this is how the text is set up. Oh my God, today. But here's the thing. Here is the thing. This battered woman's body escalates this brutality. That even though daybreak has come, in the daytime, we are truly able to see just how heinous of a crime it is. But guess what? Guess what? When you are able to see how heinous the crimes have become, the folk who have done the crime become even more heinous. That daylight light shines the light on it so that they can become even more violent. What's the real problem in this text? What's the real problem in this situation? What's the real problem in this world? The real problem here is that people's humanity is ignored. But not only are people's humanity ignored in this text, let's go back to it so that we can show you exactly what it says, so that we can read it for ourselves. In this text, it says in verse 29 that when he reached home, when he reached home, when he reached home, he took a knife, he cut up his concubine limb by limb into 12 parts and sent them into all the areas of Israel. Everyone who saw it was saying to one another that such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt. Just imagine, we must do something, so speak up. The narrator finally gets it. The narrator, it took this woman's body being cut up. Can I tell you what this means? Can I tell you what the body being cut up represents? The body being cut up represents a declaration of war. The Levite sends this woman's mutilated body to the 12 tribes with the hopes that they would declare war on Benjamin. And that's exactly what they did. But the unfortunate thing about it here is that he was not calling for war to be declared because they had done this vow act to this woman. He is calling for war to be declared because his ego is bruised, because they took his property, because they took what he believed belonged to him. Friends. Let me bring it down. So speak up. So speak up. The text says, speak on it. The text says, speak on it. Listen, if I had another point about this, it would be, of course, speak on it, which is the main point of the text here, but this Levite never said anything. He never said anything. He remained, when he mutilated her body and sent it to the 12 tribes, he remained silent about his actions. He remained silent that he pushed her. Read into it. That he pushed her. He remained silent about his actions, about seeing her body laying at the door. The text says that to keep silent, though, is a sin. Verse 19:30, again, let's read it. It says to direct your heart to her, to take counsel and to speak. But what can we say? What is there to say? I was wondering, how can these women and men that I'm seeing on the Instagram, on Al Jazeera and others, how can they continue to say all praises be to God? How can they say alhamdulillah? And the sister said they say alhamdulillah because even in the most horrendous of moments, if they continue to say alhamdulillah, then it will get into their spirit that even in the most tragic of times, that God is with them, that they are acknowledging and honoring God. So they are saying it not because they feel great, not because all is well, but they are saying it because this is their resolve. Oh my goodness. And friends, I can't even, once again, I want to be honest. I'm not even there. I want to be clear. I'm not even there. But there is something about it in the midst of this tragic, in the midst of this occupation, in the midst of innocent civilians. There is something about this call for all praises in the midst of this hell. What they are choosing to do from my interpretive lens is they are not keeping silent, that if all I can say is alhamdulillah, if all I can say is that at least I am still speaking. And can I tell you what it also means, what we also must say, whom we also must speak to? We also got to speak against the narrator in this text. We got to speak to the narrator in this text and in other texts, both in the archive and the repertoire, because and when they have shown no decency, no compassion, nor any attention. What then can we say? What can we say in the presence of unrelenting and unredeemed terror? What is it that we will say? And I want to end this way. Phyllis Tribble says this. First of all, she says, we can recognize the contemporaneity of the story. For misogyny, and I'm going to add every other interlocking oppressive system that Patricia Hill Collins places in as the matrix of domination, most visible and interlocking systems of oppression. So first of all, we can recognize the contemporaneity of the story, that misogyny and all of those other intersectional isms belongs to every age. Every age, including our own. Violence and vengeance are not just characteristics of a distant pre-Christian past. They infect the community of the elect to this day. Woman as object is still captured, betrayed, raped, tortured, murdered, dismembered, and scattered. To take to heart this ancient story, then, is to confess its present reality. The story is alive and all is not well. Beyond confession, we must take counsel to say, never again. Yet this counsel is itself ineffectual unless we direct our hearts to that most uncompromising of all biblical commands, speaking the word not to others, but to ourselves. Repent. Repent. Ashe, Ashe. Asheo. I have placed the link for those of you who desire to join the clearing. We are a little past time, so as soon as you join, please DM me so that I know that you've joined so that I can go back and get you into the link. For those of us who are already subscribers and who want to come on over and talk, let's go. This was a very hard word, as the entire month will be. So I invite you to take care of yourselves in the ways that are most available and important to you. If you need to get in a therapy session, you need to talk to someone, do that. If you need to just go outside and put your feet on some earth, ground yourself, do that. If you need to take a shower or a bath with some sea salt and some black soap, do that. If you need to just sit at your altar, do that. If you need to journal, do that. Whatever you need to do to move this up and out of your body so that you are able to speak out. It is a sin to remain silent, for our silence, as the text says, means impotence and complicity. And so, y'all, we have got to speak out. Yes, speak out against domestic violence. It's awareness, and yes, it's speak out for domestic violence awareness and prevention, and also for violences that we see within our world today. It is time for us to speak out, for what happens to one will happen to us. There are no hierarchies of oppression. We are all at risk.